Isn't that what the Eagles signed up for when they signed up for him? I mean, if you're expecting 1,500 yards, that's not really who he is.
Well, it's not what this offense is. So, Tom Brady threw the ball 717 times last year, Dan. They're not going to throw it. They might not throw it 600 times. Okay, so he's not going to get those kind of targets. But, be honest with you, 2017, the Eagles didn't have a 1,000-yard receiver. They didn't have a 1,000-yard runner. They didn't have anybody that had 10 sacks. So numbers, we like to talk with numbers, and I understand it.
Arm, but his pregame snap preparation has separated him unlike any other quarterback that's ever played the game. And when you're talking to me about these mobile quarterbacks, you know why these mobile quarterbacks don't have a high shelf and they don't win a lot in the games that I think that matter the most, like Vic and Cam and some of these other guys? They can take off running when it breaks down. These other guys, these prolific passers, have to know where to throw the ball. All that being said, hey, man, I just love talking to Baldy. He's become a superstar at the NFL Network. He joins us now here. Would you agree, Baldy, that that's clearly one of the things that separates the mobile quarterback from the drop back traditional guy that you and I know, is that these guys' preparation is so different because the running quarterback, if it breaks down, take off run.
They don't have that option. They don't have that option.
And guys like Brady and Manning, they have to know where to go with the ball. And that's why there's a higher shelf life with those guys.
Same with Matt Stafford now. Matt Stafford's not running away from anybody. He's not trying to. He made a throw. In fact, I broke it down yesterday, Dan. I've done it a couple times, but I was just bored, so I did it. But, he made a throw in the game against Tampa, 27-27, 28 seconds to go in the game, and he hits Cooper Kupp over the top against a zero blitz. And, Matt Stafford, in fact, I called Kurt Warner about the play because I just wanted to see a quarterback, a guy that isn't mobile like Kurt wasn't. Like, what do you got to do in that situation? He goes, oh, Baldy, when they come off the ball in zero coverage, the way, the middle linebacker did, you got an extra tick. But, you got a Ndamukong coming right at him, Dan, right at him, right down the pike. And he just stayed there, set his feet, and just threw the ball to an open patch of grass, read it perfectly. And really, that got them got them the game-winning field goal. Otherwise, it goes into overtime, and who knows what happens. But, yes, these guys that don't have that extra dimension, they have to be able to make the reads, get the ball out on time, use the check down game. I mean, they just don't have that luxury. And they also tend to stay healthier longer because they don't take any, as many unnecessary hits as some of the other guys do.
Baldy, I want to throw this at you here. And you being a former old lineman, please tell me if you think I'm off base on this here. The last 2 years in Philadelphia with that old line, last year when they got out of the gate and they started trying to throw the ball, they got out 2-5. They realized that they were a run-dominant football team, and they became a one-dimensional team. If you go back the previous year to where they gave up all those sacks, and a lot of those were Carson Wentz's, I completely understand that. He holds onto the ball, plays too much hero ball. It was just a complete train wreck, plus the injuries that they had on the football team. Am I supposed to believe here that they're going to transform this offense because A.J. Brown has been added to the team with a quarterback who's a one-read guy, with Troy Aikman, you, and everybody screaming at the TV, just throw it out there to the left side? How do I know this Eagle offense can pass protect? They haven't been asked to pass protect in the last 2 years. They finished 27th in the passing game last year, Baldy. I mean, to say that they're going to turn this thing into a prolific passing offense, I think that's a reach.
They've got a good offense line, Dan. I mean, Jordan Mailata, there were Sundays last year where he was the best tackle in football. Not every Sunday, but there were times when he was. Lane Johnson, I work out in his backyard all spring here, Dan. He's healthy. So I'm at the offense line masterminds. He's ready to roll. Lane Dickerson is just, there's just not many guys playing guard. Quentin Nelson. There's a couple guys that are 335 pounds that can move like that. Kelsey's back. We got to see if he can play 17. The right guard position is up, but maybe Seumalo can lock in there at right guard. They're not going to be 65 to 70% pass, Dan. I mean, they're going to be about as balanced as you can get. They are an excellent run blocking team. But with A.J. Brown, they have to be able to throw it better. They can't go down to Tampa in a playoff game and do what they did. They've got to, man up against a group like that. You've got to throw it better than they did. You got to challenge them in the run game. I know Vita Vea is sitting in there, and Akeem Hicks will be there this year. I know those guys are there, but you got to at least challenge them, and they didn't. So that's disappointing to watch. But I'm a Jalen Hurts fan. I see him over at Lane's house in the morning. He's everything that you want. He's the natural born leader. They follow him. He's the son of a coach. Nobody's going to get there earlier, stay later. But he does have to become a better passer. And I don't know, like Carson Wentz, if he's a natural thrower. Some guys aren't. And if you're not just a guy that can take a ground ball and just whip it to first base just naturally, right? Because that's what natural throwers just do. Patrick Mahomes is a natural thrower. Put him anywhere in the field, put a baseball in his hand, put a football in his hand, he's going to throw it, and he's going to be accurate with it. A lot of guys aren't. Carson. So they got to be fundamentally really sound, and they got to really work on their mechanics so that they can throw with their lower bodies instead of just using, tremendous upper body strength that they both have to be able to get a ball down the field. And so it's going to come down to a lot of fundamentals, and he's got to see the field better. A.J. Brown is probably his best friend. He's the godfather to his daughter. All this stuff is real. The one thing that Jalen has told me, Dan, is that one of the reasons why he loves A.J. is he catches the ball with his hands. And, Philadelphia doesn't really have a lot of receivers like that. They catch the ball with their body, and it just gives the defender an extra tick to defend that pass, comebacks, out routes, things like that. And so I think A.J. is going to make a difference. Like, he is when he takes the shirt off now, like he's their Debo. He's their T.O. Like, they haven't had a guy like that. They're not, look, there's a lot of Tarzans out there. But he's more than that. He is a big, strong, explosive player, and he's going to make a difference in his offense.
Baldy, when I look at his numbers in 3 years, averages 61 catches, 998, and 8 touchdowns over those 3 years. And that's a predominant running attack team, the same as the Eagles here. Give me what you think his numbers, to me, would you be okay with 60 catches? Because, look, I think his asset, to me, is going to be red zone offense, which means higher touchdowns. I think if you get normal 65 catches, 1,000 yards, but 10, 11, 12 touchdowns, isn't that what the Eagles signed up for when they signed up for him? If you're expecting 1,500 yards, that's not really who he is.
Well, it's not what this offense is. So, Tom Brady threw the ball 717 times last year, Dan. They're not going to throw it. They might not throw it 600 times. Okay, so he's not going to get those kind of targets. But, be honest with you, 2017, the Eagles didn't have a 1,000-yard receiver. They didn't have a 1,000-yard runner. They didn't have anybody that had 10 sacks. So numbers, we like to talk with numbers, and I understand it. But, really, if he puts up 60 and 900, if he puts up 65 and 1,000, and Devontae on the other side is somewhere close to that, and Dallas Goedert at tight end, puts up 8 touchdowns. It's 17 games, so it's an extra game. You can see those three having a good season, all three of them having a good season.
How far do you think this team goes, Baldy? Are they one of the Final Four teams in your opinion? Because, look, the NFC, Dallas has walked back. Devontae Adams is now in the AFC. When you go around the building, Arizona, they lost Chandler Jones. I don't know what they're going to be like on the defensive side. Just all around, it doesn't really look like, the Rams don't look like a repeat team to me. Are they a Final Four team? Are they one of the better 5 teams in the NFC, or that has to be proven yet?
Well, they have to be proven. Look, Dallas, not only did they own the division last year, Dan, they were 6-0 in the division, but they scored something like 190 something.
Dominated.
They put up 41 points in one game against the Eagles and 56 another. So now I understand Amari's not there, but but that defense led the league in takeaways. They give extra bats to Dak. They're still going to be a good team. Now have the Eagles closed the gap on them? Oh yeah, they're going to be old time NFC East battles between these two teams. They've closed the gap. They can compete with Dallas right now. I like Nick Sirianni, Dan. I really do. just being around him and just talking to a lot of the players, one thing they like about him is he coaches them hard. He's not trying to be a buddy-buddy with them. He's a stickler on fundamentals, which we know from the era that we played in. That was your toolbox. Like, strengthen your toolbox. Like, that's what he's doing out there. And so you see Jeff Stoutland in the offensive line and what he's done with Malata and, with Landon Dickerson last year coming off an injury. Like, you're seeing certain position groups really step up. And so that's what I like about Nick. Like, he's not going to let him slide. He's on him. And they want him to be on. And so I feel like there's good, just being around him, I feel like there's good team chemistry, really good team chemistry. And Hurts is a big part of it. So I think they're going to be much more competitive this year, Dan. I don't think they're a Final Four team. I just don't think – I think that's too soon for this team. They might get there. They're building the roster. The roster is better now than it was at the end of the season last year. They're better in a lot of places defensively. They're deeper on the defensive line for sure. They needed to be. But I feel like, Green Bay is still there. Teams in the NFC West are still better. The Bucks are better, and you got to, wait and see what happens with, New Orleans this year, maybe, with Dallas. But I think they're a playoff team for sure. And then it's a question of, do they win the division, get a home playoff game? Or are they just, going on the road wild card weekend and having to do that kind of number?
Couple last questions for you here, NFL wise. Jimmy Garoppolo. I had heard some stuff, and I had Bruce Arians on the program a couple weeks ago, and I was talking to him prior to Tom Brady's retirement. They were in the market looking for a quarterback. Not saying that they're not happy with Kyle Trask, the kid they got from Florida, but they were looking around, and one of the names that I threw up was Jimmy Garoppolo. Yeah. I mean, he's in the same check down system that he had up in New England. They kind of play almost the same kind of game. Jimmy's deep pass is not where Brady's is, obviously, and nor is he the guy. But, Baldy, in San Francisco, is John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan really going to put the keys into the hands of a guy and take it out of the hands of a guy who, with the playoffs, is 38-16-0, and Kyle Shanahan is 7-28? Without Jimmy Garoppolo as a starting quarterback? He's been to 2 of the last 3 NFC title games. And last year, Baldy, he went into Dallas and he went up to Green Bay and beat those teams. Are you walking away from that?
Well, when you give up 3 first-round draft picks to move up to go get, Trey Lance, like you're making a commitment. Now, the clock is ticking, Dan. But this is a playoff team, and maybe a deep playoff team with good to great quarterback play. Now, I think the offense looks different with Trey Lance. He only attempted 71 passes last year. He only started 2 games. He started 3 games, Dan, in the last 2 seasons. Hasn't played a lot of football. It's a lot to ask of him. As you know, it's hard to win games in the NFL with a young quarterback. It's just difficult. So that's where 49ers are at. Now, I think Jimmy Garoppolo would have been traded if he didn't have surgery in mid-March. Okay, so they're telling you that, they didn't know about the surgery until the surgery. So, but that being said, it might be a blessing in disguise that he couldn't be traded because he hadn't thrown a football yet. And nobody's going to trade for him, whether it's Seattle or anybody else that might have an injury or anybody else that might have an interest right now. Nobody's going to trade for him. Maybe Cleveland, until they know he's healthy. And so what I've been saying, and I could be dead wrong here, Dan, on this, but like the 49ers, to me, have to bring him to training camp. And they've got to play him some. They've got to demonstrate that he's not damaged goods. And then if they want to unload him, trade him for whatever they can get, I wouldn't trade him to Seattle. Seattle's a better team with Jimmy Garoppolo than they are with Drew Lock or Geno Smith. So I wouldn't want to have to go up against him. That's just – I wouldn't do that. So regardless what you get for him. So – to me, if you bring him to training camp and you play him to basically market him and show him off, if you get that far with him, why wouldn't you just keep him?
Completely agree. Last question for you. With the contract that was given to Deshaun Watson in Cleveland, through 30 guaranteed, obviously contracts being talked to in Arizona with Kyler Murray, and obviously also in Baltimore with Lamar Jackson. Baldy, if you're the general manager in Baltimore and you're DaCosta, do you give him a $230 million guarantee, Lamar Jackson? He's a former MVP. He's won 80% of his ball games. He led the NFL in touchdown passes, plus ran for 14. He's a unicorn kind of guy. Mm-hmm. But you and I know this, that shelf life. I mean, look at Cam Newton now. He's in tatters after playing with that kind of style. Mm-hmm. Do you give him a Dak deal or do you give him a deal like Mahomes?
Well, I don't know. I don't know how Pat's deal is structured, Dan.
It's 10 years.
Okay. Well, you got to have you can on the surface give him that money, but you have to have some sort of an out, because otherwise, if he does get hurt, if that happens or when it happens, you're going to sink the franchise for a long time after that. Well, they try to find a replacement. Now you've got to kind of, I think he's earned a contract. I mean, he's a top 10 quarterback in this league. He's got star power. Like, you have to watch when the Ravens are playing with him. And the record speaks for itself. They are a difficult team to defend with him. He's got to play better in the postseason.
He does.
The team has to play. They've gotten to the postseason. They haven't played well. They've gotten beat. They've been knocked out. I mean, people get on me when I tell people, like, look, you get measured in this business by how you perform in the postseason. Now, people can jump on me all they want, Dan. They jump on us for anything. But they can jump on us and say, well, what about the team around? Well, look, you got to make, I saw Nick Foles make throws in a Super Bowl game, Dan, that not many people could ever make. There was 5 or 7 throws in that game that were one highlight after another. And they needed every one of them to beat Tom Brady and the Patriots. So you get to that level, like the way Stafford did in that game, coming down the stretch. There's no Odell Beckham, tight ends hurt. You've got Cooper Kupp, and you got to put it in the end zone. And he made one throw after another. So that's what you're paying these guys for. Can you get to that spot and make those throws? We've seen Mahomes do it time and time again. There's no lead that's safe with that guy. What he did against Buffalo last year, we think Joe Burrow is that guy. He's shown that he's that guy going to Tennessee, knock off to them. That's what you pay these kind of salaries. That's what you're paying for. Those type of performances in the postseason.
Absolutely. By the way, I'd be ashamed of myself if I didn't say this for Barrett Brooks, man, to say hi to you, man.
Okay.
He always brings him. Hey, you did a lot for that guy, man. That's really cool of you, Baldy, bringing him into the business.
Yeah. There's a bunch of guys, but Barrett I never had any reservations that Barrett wasn't going to do the work or the preparation or anything else. Sterling Sharp was right here with me, kind of put him in front of the camera and teaching him the do's and don'ts. And, he's done all the grunt of the legwork to get to where he's at and why he's had a good post football career right now.
Absolutely. Baldy, I can't thank you enough for our friendship.
My pleasure, Danny. Anytime, man.
You got it, man. Thank you so much, Baldy. I appreciate it. Thank you, brother. Right. Looks good, man. I like the tan too, man. Baldy looks great. There's too. Really appreciate him doing that. Hey, my friends, don't forget my friends at Morgan & Morgan, where the fee is free. That means this: if you're hurt or injured on the job, understand this. When you're picking an attorney to protect your family and to get the fair compensation, there is no other place other than Morgan & Morgan. That's right. Hurt or injured on the job, Morgan & Morgan is your place. For the people is not a slogan. It is who exactly they are. Past 30 years, they've collected over $13.5 billion for their clients. And again, folks, understand this. There's no such thing as a fender bender when you go into a courtroom with Morgan & Morgan. They will not be intimidated. The call is free. The consultation is free. 800-512-1600. That's 800-512-1600. Open 24/7, 7 days a week. 800-512-1600. When you call Morgan & Morgan, tell them Big Sil sent you.
Many times when people are injured at a place of business, they don't realize they may have a case. The fact is, injuries should not happen. And most of the time when someone is injured, someone is at fault. Maybe the store manager installed a cheap, slippery floor, or there wasn't proper security. After an injury at a hotel, restaurant, store, or any place of business, it's so important to call us. Time matters, size matters. Morgan & Morgan, for the people.com.